Argus came off beyond his own expectation for thinking right and speaking as he thought. It was apparent by the house and the thanks they gave him that they esteemed him to be absolutely of the best sort of orators, upon which, having a mind that till then misgave him, he became very crounce, and much delighted with that which might go down the next week in print unto his wife and his neighbors. Livy makes the Roman tribunes to speak in the same style with the consuls, which could not be, and therefore, for aught in him to the contrary, Valero and Canulius might have spoken no otherwise forth their style than Argus. However, they were not created the first year of the Commonwealth, and the tribunes of Oceana are since become better orators than were needful. But the laws being enacted had the preamble annexed and were delivered unto Broncus, who loved nothing in the earth so much as to go staring and bellowing up and down the town like a stag in a forest, as he now did, with his fraternity in their coats of arms, and I know not how many trumpets, proclaiming the act of Parliament when meeting my Lord Archon, who from a retreat that was without affection, as being for devotion only, and to implore a blessing by prayer and fasting upon his labors, now newly arrived in town, the herald of the tribe of Bestia set up his throat, and having chanted out his lesson, passed as haughtily by him as if his own had been the better office, which in this place was very well taken, though Broncus, for his high mind, happened afterwards upon some disasters, too long to tell, that spoiled much of their embroidery. My Lord Archon's arrival being known, the signory, accompanied by the tribunes, repaired unto him with the news he had already heard by the herald, to which my Lord Strategos added that his highness could not doubt, upon the demonstrations given, but the minds of men were firm in the opinion that he could be no seeker of himself in the way of earthly pomp and glory, and that the gratitude of the Senate and the people could not therefore be understood to have any such reflection upon him. But so it was that in regard of dangers abroad and parties at home, they durst not trust themselves without a standing army, nor a standing army in any man's hands, but those of his highness. The Archon made answer that he ever expected this would be the sense of the Senate and the people, and this being their sense, he should have been sorry they had made choice of any other than himself for a standing general. First, because it could not have been more unto their own safety, and secondly, because so long as they should have need of a standing army, his work was not done, that he would not dispute against the judgment of the Senate and the people, nor ought that to be. Nevertheless, he made little doubt, but experience would show every party their own interest in this government, and that better improved than they could expect from any other. That men's animosity should overbalance their interests in any time was impossible. That humor could never be lasting, nor, though the constitution of the government, of any effect at the first charge. For supposing the worst, and that the people had chosen none other into the Senate and the prerogative than royalists, a matter of 1,400 men must have taken their oaths at their election, with an intention to go quite contrary, not only to their oaths so taken, but to their own interests. For being estated in the sovereign power, they must have decreed it from themselves, such an example as for which there was never any experience, nor can be any reason, or holding it, it must have done in their hands as well every whit as in any other. Furthermore, they must have removed the government from a foundation that apparently would hold to set it upon another, which apparently would not hold, which things, if they could not come to pass, the Senate and the people consisting wholly of royalists, much less by a parcel of them elected. But if the fear of the Senate and of the people derived from a party without, such an one as would not be elected, nor engage themselves unto the commonwealth by any oath, this again must be so large as would go quite contrary to their own interest, they being as free and as fully estated in their liberty as any other, or so narrow that they could do no hurt, while the people being in arms and at the beck of the strategist, every tribe would at any time make a better army than such a party, and there being no parties at home, fears from abroad would vanish. But being it was otherwise determined by the Senate and the people, the best course was to take that which they held the safest, in which, with his humble thanks for their great bounty, he was resolved to serve them with all duty and obedience. A very short time after, the royalists, now equal citizens, made good the archon's judgment, there being no other that found anything near so great a sweet in the government. For he who hath not been acquainted with affliction, saith Seneca, knoweth but half the things of this world. Moreover, they saw plainly that to restore the ancient government they must cast up their estates into the hands of 300 men. Wherefore, in case the Senate and the prerogative, consisting of 1,300 men, had been all royalists, there must of necessity have been and be forever 1,000 against this or any such vote. But the Senate, being informed by the Signory that the Archon had accepted of his dignity and office, caused a third chair to be set for his highness, between those of the strategist and the orator in the house, the like at every council, to which he repaired, not of necessity, but at his pleasure, being the best, and as Argus not vainly said, the greatest prince in the world, for in the pomp of his court he was not inferior unto any, and in the field he was followed with a force that was formidable unto all. Nor was there a cause in the nature of this constitution to put him unto the charge of guards, spoil his stomach or his sleep, insomuch as being handsomely disputed by the wits of the academy, whether my lord Archon, if he had been ambitious, could have made himself so great, it was carried clear in the negative, not only for the reasons drawn from the present balance, which was popular, but putting the case, the balance had been monarchical. For there be some nations, whereof this is one, that will bear a prince in a commonwealth, far higher than it is possible for them to bear a monarch. Spain looked upon the Prince of Orange as her most formidable enemy, but if ever there be a monarchy in that country, he will be her best friend. For whereas a prince in a commonwealth deriveth his greatness from the root of the people, a monarch deriveth it from one of those balances which nip them in the root, by which means the Low Countries under a monarch were poor and inconsiderable, but in bearing a prince could grow into a miraculous height and give the glory of his actions by far the upper hand of the greatest king in Christendom. There are kings in Europe to whom a king of Oceana would be but a pretty companion, but the prince of this commonwealth is the terror and judge of them all.